Buongiorno. Very good, very good. So I'll just be using a few Italian phrases throughout the evening. Yeah, I can exhaust my, I won't be using any of the curse words though. I can tell you some funny stories about the curse words, but we won't do that now. Okay, so tonight you're going to spend an evening in Venice, right? I'm going to sit down in a minute and we're going to turn the lights out, but you will be able to see me in the images much better that way. Okay, so I have to ask the question we always have to ask. Right, in the event of an alarm, we all stay put until somebody tells us not to, okay? All right, so now we did that, so that's out of the way. All right, so I'm going to turn the lights out so that you see the images better, and I'm going to take you through the whole trip and what it was all about. And at the end, if you have any questions, of course. And the images will be up except for the time when they repaint the room, and they're going to stay up for a while. So you can always come back and look at them if you don't get to them tonight. Okay? Yes, you're going to see. There's 12 images on the walls, but in total there's, I don't remember now, 27 images that you'll see tonight. I couldn't afford to frame and map them all. The bad part about doing your own show is you gotta pay for everything. So you'll get like the tidbits on the wall, and then you'll get all of it in the preview. Yes, please, if you would turn your phones off, that would be great. Not that I'm gonna lose my place, but, okay, so I'm gonna sit down, and I'm gonna have you turn the light off up front. So please don't walk around, because I don't want anybody to fall because the lights are out. Perfect, okay. So you can see the image a lot better. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. All right, that's perfect. Because I got to do a few things here, which makes this just a little bit awkward, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so how did this all come about with Venice? How did it all begin? Well, it's a really interesting history. I'm just going to do just a tiny bit of it because everybody who goes to Venice wants to know the answer to that question. And it all began around 400, the year 400. And what happened around that century was that the Roman Empire was crumbling and it couldn't protect its people, and the barbarians began to swarm in to the country, and people were afraid. And there was a tiny area up at the top west part of Italy, and there were lagoons there, and there were fishermen there. And when Attila the Hun came down, they went to the lagoons basically to hide. And since they were fishermen, they could live there. And the big ships couldn't get into those lagoons and canals. So they were safer there, and that's how they wound up there. Now, believe it or not, what they did, I'm just going to read this one part to you, is they built a foundation of over 10 million wooden logs. And they put them like straight down, and they put platforms on top of them, and they built the houses on top of those platforms. And they've been there since that time. And because of the salt and the water and the limestone, they calcified. So they're still supporting Venice to this very day, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. So, every person that goes to Venice has the same reaction. They never ever forget the first time they saw it. How many people here have been to Venice? Okay, so yeah, it's an amazing place. And I remember I went twice, and the first time I went, we came into Venice by water taxi. And I remember we were sitting in the water taxi with our backs against the windows, and all of a sudden, we saw this image of Venice, and everybody just got up silently and walked to the front of the boat and was stunned and amazed. It just did not look real. So I will never forget the first time I saw it. I could not believe it was real. And it's just so beautiful and magnificent. So I think everybody remembers that. Now, when I first came into Venice, of course, everyone goes to St. Mark's Square. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about St. Mark's. I don't want to go heavy into the history. I want to go more into the trip. But before I talk about St. Mark's, I do want to tell you that this was a special trip. It was a 7-day trip put on by National Geographic for people who wanted to photograph Venice. And they met us there, and there were 3 professional photographers. One was Jim Richardson, who still works for National Geographic to this day. The other one was, what is her name? Opalenik. She is a fine arts photographer that still does seminars. And there was an Italian photographer, and for the life of me, I can't remember her name. It was a long time ago, it was 2007. And they were all wonderful. And Jim Richardson, just an amazing photographer. And some of these photographs, if you looked him up, you will notice they're similar to mine, and that's because I was standing next to him when I took them. So there's a photograph I'll show you, 2 photographs I'll show you later. We were standing next to each other when we took the photographs. So I can't claim all the credit since he gave me the idea of what to take a picture of. All right, so in St. Mark's Square, another good story I remember was the first night we were there, we went to a Vivaldi concert. And that is the birthplace of Vivaldi, by the way. That's where he came from. And the concert was amazing. And the concert hall was to the left of St. Mark's. And it was a little tiny conference hall, little tiny place to have a concert. But what happened, the best thing that happened was after the concert. So we come out into St. Mark's Square at the end of the concert to walk back to the hotel. And you heard the sound of a flute, a single flute playing. And in the corner of the entrance of St. Mark's, there was a man playing a flute. And all you could hear was him and the lapping of the water on the walls of the canal. It was like one of those magical moments that you have in Venice that you just never forget it. So that's what I remember most about St. Mark's. This is very awkward, by the way, this keyboard, so you have to put up with me. Yes. The arrow key on the left there, that'd be a lot easier. Okay, so this is another one that I took standing next to Jim Richardson. And now we're on the island of Burano. Now, Burano is an island of many talents. So it's mostly known for fishermen, and it's also known for Italian lace, which is known all over the world. And the Italian lace industry started around the 16th century, but the fishermen have been there from the very beginning. Does anybody know why the houses are all brightly colored? So the fishermen could find them. Yeah, so they could find their home. They just looked for the color that was their house. I thought that was pretty neat. So, and the best compliment I ever got as a photographer was at the end of the evening, every night, we would go back to a room and we would look at our images and critique them, much like we do in the iPhone Photography Club. And one night, when we were critiquing them, this image came up, and Jim Richardson said to me, "You know, I took this photograph, but I really like yours better." And I was like, that might work still, right? So had to brag about that. So he had cut it a little bit differently at the end when he goes out to the water there, so to the lagoon. But it was a beautiful place and very simple, not like Venice. Murano is quieter, it's not quite as crowded, and it's a pretty unique place. Now this is an interesting shot. Elizabeth Opalenic is that shadow you see up in the left. Okay, so this one you have to look at a little differently because you won't notice what it is. That's okay. Okay, you back? Okay, there we go. So if you look at the periphery, you'll see there are all kinds of items and masks and things like that. But what you should do is look in the center, and in the center is a reflection across the canal to the other side. Now when I was taking that shot, Elizabeth Opalenic said to me, "Did you notice there's a reflection?" And to be honest, I didn't until she said it. And then I realized what it was. So it's an interesting shot because of the reflection, because you don't really pay attention to it when you first look at it, because you don't realize it. So I thought that was kind of neat. Now the Italians, when they go shopping, they shop every day for the meal for that night. So everything is fresh. So this is just one of the little shops. And this is one of the lace shops. And I was just sad that I didn't catch the woman that was making the lace at the other end of the store. I wish I had gotten that shot, but I didn't, unfortunately. And the lace is absolutely beautiful. Now that night, I don't remember, it was the first night, we decided to take a walk around Venice in the evening. And this was one of the canals with the famous red and white poles that I really like this picture. So this is one of my favorite pictures from Venice. Okay. And this is one of the masks. Now the masks have been around Venice for centuries, and it was a way basically have a good time and nobody could tell who you were. So you could do all kinds of shenanigans, but if you had a mask on, you could get away with a lot of stuff. And they were regulated when you could wear the mask. There were only certain times you're allowed to do that. So they're very ornate and they're very beautiful and they're all very different. This is the famous, right? This is the famous Venice shot everybody wants to take or everybody remembers. And there's a funny story that goes with this picture. So everybody wanted to know how to get this shot. And in those days, I was using a regular camera. And I had a Canon. And it was one of the first digital cameras to come out. It was a great camera. And there was something that we used to use to correct for artificial light. And it was called white balance. But when you used it in this way, it turned the image kind of a blue, which with the image of the gondolas was really interesting. So everybody was trying to get those shots. So the next day I decided I was going to go out in the morning and get that shot, and I put my alarm on. I wanted to get out there. And I somehow got up a little bit too early and it wasn't even light yet. So I had to sit in the lobby for about an hour waiting for the light to come out just to get this shot, but I kind of liked it. Okay. And the other thing that's famous is fish. Everybody eats fish in Venice, all kinds of fish. And it all comes out of the lagoon, I might add. So if you go to a restaurant, there's going to be a pretty big menu of all different kinds of fish delicacies. It's okay. So a lot of fish markets. Okay, is this the next one? Yeah. Okay. Now, we also went to Murano, which I'm sure most people know is famous for the glass. And when we were there, because it was February, if you looked across the canal where I was standing by this, happened to be by one of the glass shops, they had a gigantic Christmas tree all made out of Murano glass. I thought, oh my God, what if something hit that? I mean, really, just beautiful, so it's pretty amazing. And this is one of the glass makers here. You can go on to the next one. And that's just a close-up of one of the glass structures that he had made. So you can see the colors are beautiful. The glass is very, very expensive. Very expensive. And this is one of the fishermen I like this because it's candid and he didn't realize I was there. And he was having a long discussion with this young man about how to make the net. So it was kind of neat. So this was also on Burano. Okay, Larry. And this is the outfit I'm trying to mimic. And we have a story about that too. About a month ago, was it, Halima? Yeah, Halima and Frida and I were talking at brunch, and Halima thought, wouldn't it be neat if we could get one of those hats and wear it? And she ordered it, and what was it, 2 days ago, it was delayed.
Oh. 3 times because it's coming from China.
Right, of course. Where else? So we substituted these hats, so I didn't have stripes, so I had to wear checks. But these young men were just amazing, and some of them had these flags as they were walking towards St. Mark's Square during the day of Carnival, and they would throw them in the air, and they would flip all around, and they would catch them again. So it's pretty neat to watch Carnival. So we were there for the whole week of Carnival. Now, what he did, Jim Richardson, did was really kind of neat because he had us all gather where they were getting dressed for the Carnival. So once everybody was dressed, we got to follow them all the way to St. Mark's Square, throughout the whole lagoon there to that, until you got to St. Mark's. So it was kind of neat to see it from the very beginning. And what we did was we got on the bridges and then took pictures from the viewpoint of each bridge. Okay. And here's one of the gondoliers that we were actually on this boat. And if you want them to sing, you have to pay extra. So we didn't have any singing, but I thought this guy was kind of neat. And we learned some valuable secrets of how to do lighting when you go under one of the bridges and to get the exposure right. So he was always teaching us so we would get the best pictures we could. And the gondolas are absolutely beautiful. And they make these gondolas out of many, many different types of woods. And there's a family that for the last, I think, 400 years, if I remember, has been making the gondolas. And I think at this time there's only 400 in all of Venice. So they're really a real piece of art. When you look at them close up while you're sitting in them, they're really beautiful. And now we're going to start on some of the costumes. The costumes are magnificent. And the people are so excited about being a part of this and marching throughout Venice with these costumes. Look how beautiful the costumes are, and the people are beautiful too. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I can't imagine the artistry that goes into making these costumes. Okay. And they're also performing. So, through the streets, juggling, yeah? Okay, Larry. Yeah, beautiful costumes and beautiful people. And here you can see they're playing their instruments. And I'm up on one of the little bridges taking the pictures as they go by. And this is one of the pictures that Jim and I took at the same time. So if you look through your old National Geographics, there's a picture very similar to this. I think he got in a little bit closer. And he taught me the most important lesson I learned about taking portraits. And he said, you never just go up to somebody you don't know and take a picture of them. You always have a conversation with them first. And that's exactly what he did. He had a conversation with this young girl, and when she got comfortable, then he took a picture. She wasn't paying attention. Yeah, and just a beautiful young girl and a beautiful netting over her face. Really special. Yes, beautiful girl, beautiful costume. Yeah, beautiful profile. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the same girl. But look at even that front piece is just beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, I was just amazed. I don't know what that was. Almost like a shield, almost. Yeah. Yeah, there's people all around. It's very hard to isolate somebody and get a picture like that, because there's people walking all over the place. That's why it's best if you were up on the bridges to get some of the shots. But then you eventually start mingling with them, because once you come around, because we were way out here, and you come around the corner and you're on the Grand Canal going toward St. Mark's, and then it was a little bit easier. But then you were behind them, so, okay.
Ooh.
Okay, funny story. This is Rialto Bridge. This bridge has been built, it's very old, it's been built multiple times, but this is the funny story. So this was the last night I was there, and I wanted to go out one more time because I hadn't gotten a picture of this bridge. This is 11:30 at night, and I went with one of the gals in the group, and we said, let's just go out one more time because we're gonna get on the plane tomorrow. We're never gonna get another chance. And the lighting, of course, was not that great, but the funny part of it was, now picture us, all this camera equipment, tripod, and we're standing on a pier. I don't know if you call it a pier, but where the boats are parked, and it's about this wide. And we're trying to make sure we don't step back and step off the pier into the water. So it was a little unnerving, and we got the shot, and we got off, and we didn't fall off. So that was thankfully we did that. And I think we got back by midnight. This one I took a little creative license with, and this is just one of the walls as you're walking. You know, they're all beautiful. And the silliest comment I heard from a tourist was, why is everything so old looking? Why don't they paint the place? I wanted to slap the person in the head. Yeah. So I just thought that was funny, but they're really beautiful, this kind of Gothic structure. And this, unfortunately, when we were in Burano, we realized there was a funeral procession going by on the opposite part of the canal. So that's actually what that is. And I did take a little creative license with that one.
Yeah, what did you use? Were there apps in those days that?
I did that, I think edited 2 pictures, the wall and this one. And this, because it was overexposed and I didn't like the way it looked. So I did use an editing app. And amazingly, even though I took these pictures on a completely different camera, in 2007, when I pulled them up, it still gave me all the particulars. You know how you swipe up and you can find out. And I was still able to use the app. Yeah, which I didn't think I was going to be able to use to edit it, but I thought I would try it just to see if I could make it a little bit better. And I think it is a little bit better than the original, so.
It looks like it's painted.
Yeah, it was probably water brush, I don't even remember, yeah. But I think it looks better than it did before. But yeah, so kind of something you would never expect to catch. That's it.
Now, before you go,
I
just want to make sure I tell you all this over. Yes, we'll take questions. I want to make sure there's nothing I can see.
So now our famous Q&A session. To the hostesses, do you have a question for your?
Did you have a smartphone at that time? I know you were using a regular phone, no smartphones, they hadn't come out that really.
No, I probably just had a regular phone. I don't remember now, because so long ago. Yeah, no, nobody was taking pictures with phones then. The digital cameras had just come out. The Canon Rebel had just come out. And 4 megapixels was considered a big deal. Yeah. So none of these are bigger than 4 megapixels, because that's all they had then. So, and they still, you know, the clarity is still great. So you don't need a camera with 50 megapixels. Okay, so.
Well, I insist on calling them paintings because they are as beautiful as any paintings you could find in an art gallery. And I have a question. Did anybody ever step back too far?
Not that I heard of. But there was one time, oh, I did forget a story. Remember when I showed you the fish market? Okay. So when we were at the fish market, and I've told this story before, but you'll forgive me, those of you who have heard it before. They wanted to go across the lagoon to the other side without walking, a long way. So they got us, and there was 15, I think, of us, on one gondola, standing. And we have all our packs with all the equipment on our back. So I remember turning to everybody and saying, if I start to fall overboard, grab the camera equipment first. And I meant it, and I don't know how to swim.
So when we were hanging this show, you told me a story about that, the one with the darker background.
Right.
Could you share that with the audience? I thought it was
Thanks
beautiful.
for reminding me about that one. That last picture on that wall over there, with the darker frame, and it looks like it has 2 pictures in it. When I came back to Venice, and I went for a haircut on Long Island, my hairdresser, who I cut my hair for like, I don't even know how many years, forever, and he was Italian also, and the picture only showed the man in the picture from the waist up. And he said to me, I want to paint this guy, but why didn't you take the whole person? I said, well, it's a portrait, so you don't do that. So he imagined the rest of the cover, the outfit, and added it onto the bottom. So when you go over there, there's the original photograph without the bottom part, and his rendition of what the whole person would look like in the costume. So, yeah, and he gave it to me as a gift. I thought that was great. So, yeah. He would love to know that his picture was up at this show. Yeah. I don't know if he's still cutting here though.
Yes? Bill?
In the Carnival and Parade, in Carnival in New Orleans, there are floats. Were there gondolas decorated or floats in any of the carnival activities here that you saw?
Not that I saw, no. If there were any, we never saw them. I know there was a movie a while back. I can't remember who was in it. But the story was not so great, but the visual of what they imagined Carnival looked like at night was with boats like that and fireworks, and it just looked, the image was absolutely beautiful. But no, we didn't know about anything like that or see anything like that, and we were out every night. So I think if there had been something, we would have seen. Now, I don't know if at other times of the year when it's not Carnival and it's other celebrations, that they don't have something like that. I don't know. They could.
Are you Italian?
Yes. Not from Venice. See, right, yeah. Not from Venice, though. Way down south. Calabria. San Nicole, the instep of the Venice group, of the Italian boot. That's where I'm from.
Would you share with us the one thing that you have learned since you were in Venice taking these photos that you really, really appreciate about photography?
Well, I think the most important thing that he taught me was how to take a good portrait. And I've never really been into portrait photography. But he taught me some valuable lessons about that. Another valuable thing I learned from Elizabeth Opelenic was to pay attention to reflections. And I saw some amazing pictures where there were puddles, and they took the reflection of one of the Venetian buildings in the puddle, the reflection in the puddle. And the pictures were pretty amazing. So, yeah. The most important thing about photography is to pay attention and to look at things in a different way. I think that's the best part of taking photographs, is it makes you pay attention and see things that most people walk past and don't pay attention to. So I guess that's the most important thing I've learned. And when we have our iPhone photography class, that's what I tell everybody. You know, just start to pay attention. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry, you're waiting for that.
Yeah. Shalom had a question?
And
Oh,
everybody thinks
sorry.
when they take a bad picture, when they first start taking photographs, that if they only had a better camera, they would take better pictures. And it's not true. It's not the camera, it's the person behind the camera. Yeah, it really is. So don't spend millions of dollars and thousands of dollars on more and more lenses and fancy cameras. You can take beautiful pictures with just a basic camera. And when I couldn't carry 50 pounds of equipment anymore, I gave it all to my niece who wanted to buy a camera, and I got an iPhone. I do just fine.
I hope somebody has taken a picture of you three tonight.
Larry's going to at the end, yes. I specifically asked him to.
We're just waiting for the document.
Yes.
Michele, I'm not sure, did I read that Venice was cutting down on large tourist ships coming in?
Yeah, I think I've heard that also.
They're starting to charge more, and they're concerned that it's very overcrowded.
It is very overcrowded. If you look at the pictures, I was watching, just to review Venice a little bit in my head, because it's been a long time. I was watching a video of Venice, and to see these cruise ships, it looks awful. It just is, it just doesn't look, I don't know. Yes, it's bigger than the buildings. It's like, historically, they don't belong there. It's a shame, actually. Yeah.
The residents or the
It's a shame for the people that live there. Yeah. Because I remember having friends living in East Hampton on Long Island, and they said they didn't come out once the tourist season started because it was so terrible. And I'm sure the Venetian people feel that way too, because it's like wall-to-wall people. So we were lucky because we went at a time when hardly anybody was there except the people that came for Carnival. But when we were looking and exploring, a lot of times the streets weren't busy once Carnival was over. So people had gone home and we had the place to ourselves, and we went everywhere. And you can't get lost in Venice because there's on the walls, they point towards like landmarks like San Marcos Square this way. So as long as you keep going that way, you probably get back to where you were.
Well, we have a very sad story about Venice. We were there one time, and on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, and we went to one of the big art galleries, the Accademia, and it had been raining. So we were waiting online, and we all had our umbrellas, and everybody got wet, blah, blah, blah. And we get into the museum, and the Italians all took off their wet gloves, their wet hats, put them on the radiators, and the steam came up right under these masterpieces of art. And I thought, oh my God, that was true.
Yeah, the first time I went there, they did have a flood. And what amazed me the first time I went there was like within 5 minutes of the water rising, they brought out these wooden sidewalk platforms, and they were all around the San Marcos Square. People were walking on them. And the Venetians probably wear boots all the time, so because they know better. But the second time I was there, we didn't have any of that. So they do adapt and accommodate. So it's pretty amazing. Now, if there's no more questions,
I'll get to it. Coming
I
in.
want to thank some people. wait
In our library here,
till it brings up the microphone.
you'll find a whole shelf full of mysteries set in Venice.
Oh, yeah, I
By a
read that.
wonderful writer named Donna Leon. And it really gives a wonderful picture of what it's like to live there. And there must be 15 or 18 of these books. And anything I know about Venice, I learned from these books, so it's wonderful for me to see the pictures itself. But check them out in the library. There's a whole big shelf of Donna Leon.
If I see a book and it says it's set in Venice, I read it just because I want to vicariously experience it again, you know? I think, any more questions back there?
I'm looking for hands.
Because I think Frida wanted to say
Oh,
something.
big point.
It's just a kind of a practical question. You have all these wonderful paintings and art. What about mildew, living in such a moist environment?
I don't know, but I'm sure it is an issue. The funniest story I read, and I can't remember where I read this, was somebody was in Venice and they went into a restaurant and they kind of noticed that there was a passageway, like right to the canal through the restaurant. So they, was it your daughter? Somebody told me this story and I don't remember who it was, but they went to look at the canal and the door shut behind them. So then they were stuck on the ledge, banging on the door. I guess somebody eventually came, but there's no place to go if you're out on that ledge, you know? And if a boat doesn't pass you, you're in trouble, so.
Have you traveled other places too?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
This
I don't
is
travel
special.
anymore, but.
This is special because of the photography.
This is expressively for the photography that I went. I had thought twice about going because they're expensive. I don't even know what they cost now, but they were expensive in 2007. So I can't even imagine what they cost now. But yeah, this was just for the photography. But I also, Yellowstone, of all the most unique places I've ever been, and photography-wise, I would say Yellowstone is this same list as Venice. So.
You mentioned restaurants. I think I had the best meal in Italy in Venice. It was fabulous. The fish, whatever they did, it was exceptional.
When I went to Venice the second time, and I got off I landed in Venice, and the first thing I wanted to do was have linguine clams. So I went to because I was waiting for the whole group to arrive, and I went to a little tiny restaurant, and the Italian waiter brought out the linguine clams, and I asked for Parmesan cheese, and he looked at me like I had committed a sin of some sort, and he went, and I said, but that's how I like to eat it, and he never came back. It was like, you're not eating it like that. So don't mess with Italian waiters. And did you know in Italy, is it Italy? I don't remember if it was Venice, but there was an Italian restaurant that you go to be insulted.
No, that's in New York City.
No. There's one in Italy too.
New York City, Luna.
Yeah.
Go there to be
Insulted, yeah. It's very funny. It was in one of the films I saw, and it's just very funny because when people don't realize that, of course, they're wondering why these waiters are so rude. So, yeah.
Is that the soup place that Seinfeld goes to?
Oh, with the soup nuts, yeah.
The soup nuts.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a few people I want to thank. None of these shows happens, of course, without a lot of help from a lot of people. Of course, we're always thankful to Al, who started this whole thing. And I wouldn't be sitting here if he hadn't tapped me on the shoulder and told me how he liked my photograph. So always thank you, Al, wherever you are right now.
Thank you so much.
Yes, no, what a pleasure it was to work with him all the time. I miss him something awful. All right, so here are some of the people that I have to thank. Kitty does the flyer that you see in the mail room. She put that together for us. Larry, of course, is gonna take our photo and help me out there. Dave helped me put this up because I'm kind of vertically challenged. So he put up all the pictures for me, thank you, Dave, and he always handles the microphone. Lionel is not here, but he saved me when the drill that I used to put the wires on the back of the pictures broke. So he drilled all the holes on the back of the picture so I could hang the wires on them. And Frida and Halima helped me with a creative aspect I would have never thought of, wearing the hats and having a whole theme to this. So, thank you all very much. I appreciate that you helped me through the whole thing. One more thank you. The iPhone Photography Club left this beautiful bouquet for me today, which was really nice of them. So thank you very much for that.